Well, everybody, going back into the Irish Fiddler, I'm going to start with the softening that I do. So I have a number 4 brush. It's wet, damp, it's clean. And I'm now just starting to soften the mouth. Soften all those edges that I want to be there because he's an older man, but I don't want them to be pronounced. Okay, and right here. There. And this side. Oh, that's better. Okay. Every time you see my brush leave the paper, it's because I'm going to the water to make sure it's clean, and then I dab it with the paper towel. And for me, this is where the depth happens. Okay, yes. And just a little more here. There, yeah. I'm ready to let that dry. This edge right here can get a little softer and be pulled out. These values can be pulled outward. All right, I'm going to leave that for the moment. And I'm going to start working with his hands. So using this brush is if it's still there for me to read, it's a Winsor Newton. And it's a 1. It's a 1. So back to the original mix, which is vermilion. Nice puddle, the size of a 50-cent piece, with a little yellow ochre in it, enough to turn it orange. And I'm going to start figuring my way into the hands. And you know, whenever things are not part of your transfer, you're thankful for all those hours you put into warm-ups, because your observational skills are usually spot on, and Michelle mentioned that last night. The important thing about skin tone is that you don't want to be muddy. You don't want a face to look brown unless it's brown, or blue, which can look gray and dingy. You want to be really careful. Back to that watermelon mix. And this is just slow and deliberate work. I try to soften as I go. And I try to be aware of the angles of things from a distance. So here's the tip. If these hands start to become a problem and you can't see well, do what we did with the face, and that is to enlarge the hands on an 8.5 by 11 sheet and print it out so you can see what's going on with the hands. And I have done that often. And you can see how one area will morph into another. So here I am working on the violin a little bit. And I'm going to go over here to this hand. And try to figure out what's going on here. Knowing I won't get it right the first time. And there's a thumb here that I didn't see the first time. So I'm going to try to put that in there. And we'll just leave that alone for a minute. I'm going back to the number 4. I'm adding a little more vermilion to my mix. And I'm going to come down here and just add a little more, because I know how to do this, you know. Some parts are hard, so this works for me right now. And I'm glazing over. There we go. And because I have this vermilion on my brush, I look for places I can apply it until my brush is empty. Sometimes I'm honest to goodness trying things only to go back later and kind of lift them out. Still depleting what's on my brush. Now I'm dragging the paint that's already there. I'm moving it. I've added a little water to my brush. Okay. So I'm going to grab some pure Crimson Lake. And I'm going to start putting some into the cheeks. My paper is damp, so it's taking it rather well. I'm adding a little water to my brush just to pull this downward and thin it out. So you can see I really do put a bit of work into the face. Hopefully I'm not going to lose the spontaneity that I really want. A little more Crimson Lake, just a teeniest little bit. And I'm bringing this cheekbone out and then downward. And the corner of the mouth downward. And then I'm going to connect these two shapes and hope they read. There we go. And while I have the Crimson Lake, I'm going to go over here and put in his rosy cheek. He's just a sweet man, isn't he? And I emptied my brush with a little water, and I'm pulling this down. Taking it outward. And just the teeniest little bit of Crimson Lake, I'm going to pull this down the side and in for the laugh line. And under the nose. Okay, we're going to leave him alone for a little bit. With what's left in my brush, just a touch of Crimson Lake. I'm trying to connect these two values right here and make that bridge. And you know, I can even see where some of this has a little bit of Crimson Lake. And I'm pretty happy with this so far. I'm looking up here to see if there's any Crimson Lake. And that's just plain water. And now I'm connecting them right here on the side of his head. And I'm going to soften. And bring it outward. And now we have the Crimson Lake working into the background. There we go. That's just a little Crimson Lake into the background. And I'm happy with that. I can even do a little more up here, you know, with every brush stroke and every value and color working. I'm now kind of negative painting to create some of these leaves, the suggestion of leaves. And I like that too. with a little Crimson Lake. We're going to call this over, this one. I'll just go ahead and put some up here, and we are finished with this one right here too.